Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and guy who likes to write letters. I don't know.
I'm a simple man. I'm Alex Dandino.
He said it, not me. All right, before today's thrilling finale to the month of Amour, a little business. People, it's official. We're on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod. Hey, we've seen some of you showing up lately. That is awesome. Thank you guys so much for that.
Really love that. Thank you.
Love seeing new people. Guys, it's the absolute best way to support the show. Help us grow this show. That's what we're working on, right? Turning that support into ways to grow the show. So we thank you guys so much. That means the world to us. So if you already are with us, thank you. If you're not, you get access to an awesome Patreon library where if you're here listening, hopefully you like these shows, you can get some of that. You can vote on the movies that go in there. You can do a double feature. There's all kinds of options once you get over there. We got our Tales from the Crypt miniseries going right now. So it would mean the world to us if you would go to patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod and help the show out. We would appreciate it. The YouTube Film Alchemist, the email filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the socials you're on, so go ahead and hit us up. We'd love to hear from you. Guys, 2 things you can do that are free and easy to help the show. 5-star ratings and reviews wherever you find us. That helps us algorithmically, right? When our algorithmic bitch mom is trying to keep our love apart, right? A little 5-star, a little sentence or two will help us out, right? Another thing, if you guys are listening to the show, you probably love movies. You probably know someone else who loves movies. Text them the show. Share the show with them, however you communicate.
Whatever episode you like, send them that clip.
Send them an episode. Send them the show page.
You might like this.
Wherever. Just share the show with them, and we'll take it from there. We're going to Ponzi scheme this thing up, so thank you guys in advance. All right. The finale of the month of Amour. A movie that I have dodged like COVID so many times.
I'm going to say this
COVID
at the top.
It's fine.
Friend of the pod, Brett Roods, get cranking. I know you're listening. In the shower, so get ready.
Oh, no. Is that the jerker offer?
Yeah, that's Brett, our friend Brett.
So he's the jerker offer, but I keep accusing Foskey of being the jerker offer?
You do.
Okay. So I'm just slandering a good man's name while letting some other sudsy bad man escape. Either here or there. So yeah, I've avoided The Notebook like the plague. It doesn't feel like it's for me, right? There's just not a lot in my sensibility that feels like this movie will get to.
I would
My
agree
wife
with that.
loved it, right? I knew everyone I knew loved this movie as a big ordeal when it came out. I just skipped it.
Sure.
So of course, the month of Amour, the
pod
rich
tells
chickens
the story.
coming knocking. Yeah,
This
the
makes
pod
sense.
loves to tell us a love story. This month of Amour, we always do romance tales for February.
Right.
So The Notebook has finally arrived. Up top, I'll say 2 things. This was not the high romantic yarn that it was pitched to me. I kind of knew the gist, right? Like I knew what was happening.
Everybody
And
knows
as
the
I watched the
basics.
movie, I don't think they don't do very much legwork in covering up exactly who these 2 olds are. Right? But I thought that part was engaging. I'm like, that's a really interesting, it's like a highfalutin version of 50 First Dates with Adam Sandler, right?
Yeah.
I was like, all right, this is a good tale, right? A man trying to bring back his love.
Old Southern version of 51st Dates.
Secondly, the second thing I'll say after being hooked by that, setup, pretty nice. This is more of a train wreck than a romance. Like this is obnoxious to hard to watch a lot. And not like the filmmaking. But there are some decisions that are made, some wild ass things that are happening.
Sure. Absolutely.
It left a bad taste in my mouth. This was not the high romance that I thought. The movie itself, perfectly fine movie, right?
Sure.
It's a well-crafted tale. I'm just baffled by some choices, so I'm interested to talk to you, an old front guard of the fucking Notebook fan club.
I would not call myself any front guard of a fan club. That's
You
weird.
were like the Leonidas of the fan club for the Notebook.
Okay,
You brought this movie to the
you
show.
You do this whenever I choose a movie. Don't do this. Don't start the movie like that.
Don't
start
air
the
our
pod like
laundry,
this.
Alex. Don't air
get
our
all
laundry
bitchy
in
about
public.
this at the top and
Don't yell at me in front of the children. Stop.
Don't start like this. Don't start.
How
like
dare
that.
you? How dare you?
So the Notebook, I think, I have a prodigiously entertaining history with the Notebook because it was one of those things where in high school, because it came out I think my junior or senior, I can't remember when, but it came out when I was in high school, and there was a girl that I was friends with, not my girlfriend,
Trying to be girlfriend?
no, we had actually already dated, and. I don't know how it came about, but she was like, "Do you want to go see the Notebook?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Because at the end
Thought you were back.
At the end of the day, I was like, "There is a chance I could get a kiss, at the worst an HJ out of this, whatever." Cut that part out.
No, that stays in. This is important. This is important to the tale.
So we went and saw the movie, and I was like, well, "That was fun. That was cool. That was a good tearjerker fest. Everyone's crying in the theater except for me. Whatever, it's fine." And then when I got to by my freshman year at Ball State, and you know this as well, in Brayton Clevenger, you had because in the Midwest, when I moved out into San Diego, they had co-ed floors, which shocked the hell out of me. In the Midwest, you had to have male and female dorm floors.
IU has some co-eds.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. So at Ball State, when we were at Brayton Clevenger, they had male and female dorm floors. So you had a sister floor, or if you were on a girl floor, you had a brother floor. But basically, okay, you remember the open houses we did, like freshman year Ball State? You would do that with your sister floor or whatever. So a couple of guys like put up lights and shit like that, and like did like a party. I was like, that's weird. I would never do that. Like, you're just meeting people for the first time. That's the impression you want to leave, is that you're a fucking weirdo who like puts up like glow lights and shit.
Who hangs off Ferris wheels? Yeah. All right.
So I, being the savvy freshman in college I was just like, I'm just going to put on the Notebook and sit in my room and no one will pay attention. I don't know what it was. Literally half the floor showed up at my room to watch the Notebook. I didn't ask anyone to come in.
Were flowing.
Floor locos apparently were flowing, but it was what it is. Since then, yes, I do find the Notebook entertaining, but probably in the same way that you found it entertaining, in the way that it is so unhinged in so many ways.
Yeah, I want to just get to something off the front street, right? Because the Pappy romance, right? Like them recasting themselves as better looking people in this like fantasy retelling.
Of course,
that's fine, right?
Yeah.
The stuff with
As
James Gardner in the older version of her, right? I love those scenes. There's a real tenderness there. It's really sweet.
Yeah.
It kind of has two problems, right? Which is when they tell us
Just
halfway
two, huh?
through that these are her kids, right? And she's got Alzheimer's, right? I feel like as an audience, we already knew kind of what was going on. Mm-hmm. It does kind of take the piss out of the romance story, right? From that point of the movie on, the more that we're doing the will she, won't she, I really just want to get back to the olds to see him trying to reach her, right? Rather than seeing the culmination of this romance tale that I already know the end to,
right?
Now, right? And this is me and Cloud argued about this on Tales from the Grift too. I'm a real don't show me the ending before the fucking movie starts, right? It kind of always bothers me.
Sure.
So the movie kind of had that problem for me. When she's doing her, tits out painting, I don't know if this is the right place for me. It's like, well, all right, you do. Like, this isn't really that interesting. The scene at the end when she finally comes back to him, right? How are the kids? Tell him this and that. You're like, oh, this is really great, man. I'm really loving this scene. And then it turns into Gothica starring Halle Berry.
Yes. Like, rapidly.
We're in the middle of her saying, tell the kids I love them. She stops recognizing James Gardner, has a full freak out. He's like aggressively pursuing her, right? So now she's afraid this stranger is going to hurt her.
Right.
The doctors run in and just fucking start jamming needles in her so she can calm down while he, pouts on the bed. Right? And the doctor comes in. He's like, I told you that when science ends and God begins, that's where the bad stuff starts, you motherfucker. Stop. It starts off as this romantic setup, right? And I was really vibing it.
Yeah, yeah.
When you have to see the ramifications of what this is such a fucking selfish decision.
I think that is the key.
Torture this lady so that he can have his 5 minutes. You're weighing her 5 minutes that she won't remember and his 5 minutes of, I did it, I want her back.
That is a really key component. That is a really key component of this
brutal
movie.
to watch.
And the hardest thing about watching, because look, I mean, I've watched this movie. Obviously, I saw this when I was like 17 or 18, and I'm 36 now. So I've seen it a few times over the years, and it shifts and changes more and more as time goes on. And I think the thing that I always come back to, and I probably didn't recognize this when I was younger because I wouldn't have. As I've gotten older, and particularly once I got married and saw this, the level of selfishness that is required to be Noah in this movie is pretty shocking.
Well, I can imagine there's people out there yelling at us right now. And they're
sure
like,
there are.
She wakes up but a couple minutes of a day. How nice is it that he's there, right? She is my home. Because the kids are like, come back, dude. She's gone. He's like, no, she's my home.
And that's a huge fucking problem.
I'll stay there. And I was like, that sentiment, I was like, I love that, right? Like an ailing spouse, you know, you're going to stick with him to the end, right? Love that sentiment. But again, she doesn't have...
Very expensive to stay in that home.
Well, not even that, right? They had that fucking plantation money, so they can do whatever the fuck they want. The kids, no inheritance for you, I guess. Well, yeah, her fucking mustachio dad was rich, so she's probably passing it on. They're paying it forward, like Haley Joel.
I fucking love. We got to talk about that dad.
So
my favorite character of the whole movie.
We'll get to the pappy romance, but we have to get this out. I think it's such a strange choice to at the end. Again, she's not dying of cancer, right? You're not comforting her on her way out. Sure. You are coaxing her back to a state that she has essentially lost for 99.9% of her life.
Right.
To then fucking plummet her back into the depths of fear and despair as this man is getting fucking fresh with her. Right? This man she doesn't know is running at her, calling her names, trying to get more hugs and smooches, right? And dances. And it's like, excuse me, sir, this is my room. I don't know you. Can you back the fuck up? That's a fucking brazen choice to put at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
Right? And then we see he sneaks back to her when she's in the fucking ward. Like when she's like looking through the caged glass, right? And then she's in the ward and he crawls in bed with her. Somehow she's perfectly alert now and doesn't need the fucking long fucking tail. And then the very last thing we see is them in bed. And she goes, do you think our perfect love can have us go together? And I was like, are they using their romance to psychically smother each other in their sleep?
Yes.
Are we to assume, right? Because the movie starts with that fucking horrible Birdemic art of the fucking swans flying off the red lake, right? And then it ends with the swans. I was like, are we to assume that their souls, they loved each other so much they fucking Darth Vader choked each other to death and their souls are flying away to hell?
It's funny that you put it that way because I actually was talking with Andrea about this because, like,
yes, my wife my wife also said it's disturbing to hear how you think about movies. That's what I saw. I don't think I invented that.
Well, we'll get to that part, but more to the point, because I was talking with my wife about this, and this is the leap in logic. This is the leap in logic that I have with it. Like, there's a lot of Alzheimer's in my side of the family, and it's always sad.
Grandma Griff had it so bad, and she was like 4'10" maybe. My dad said at the end, because I was like, should I go see her? He's like, no, she won't. She doesn't even know me. She definitely won't know you. He said that because she was tiny, like one of the tiniest ladies I've ever seen. Every morning she would get woken up by the guy bringing the food into her. Mm-hmm. And she was so fucking scared she would like run and try to hide. Yeah. Because she thought someone was coming in to get her. Every morning with breakfast, that's how my grandma Griff started her day.
It's very scary. Like
Alzheimer's to me is like the scariest fucking shit.
Absolutely. My grandfather and my grandfather and my grandmother on my mom's side of the family have both had it, and it's
you'll at least always have these podcasts to bring you back.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'll always listen to these podcasts.
We'll just turn on the house that Jack built. You're like, Griff.
It was one of those things where it was a very sad thing to watch when I was younger. Yeah. But like, here's the thing. This is the problem I have with that moment too, because like I have never liked the ending of this movie. Like, I want to be very clear about this. Like,
can't we just fucking let them have their nice dance and fade to black?
Yeah, like I enjoy this movie. Right. Having said that, the end of this movie makes no fucking sense to me because the problem I have with it is like they're sitting there. Because I agree, like they're basically like questioning, like, do you think our love's powerful enough to take us away from here? I'm like, if that is the logic you're applying to the situation, how about instead, like,
I
do you
find
think
your
our
lack
love's
of
powerful
faith
enough to
disturbing.
just keep me here the entire time? Like, you're
I
asking
don't have a
two
lack
of the
of
same.
faith. I have Alzheimer's. Good Lord.
Yeah, it's like, wait a second. So you'd rather just peace out with this guy than, like, do you
I
think
have
our
a
love has the
question
power?
for
Like,
you.
there is this huge problem with the power gap here in their love.
Yes. Have you read the book? Or are you familiar with the book?
I have no idea. I have no frame of reference for the book at all.
Is this a Jesus thing?
So Nicholas Sparks is known for doing some God stuff.
Jesus adjacent?
Yeah, I'd say Jesus adjacent. So
this
this was
to me
like his.
reeks
I
of-
believe this is his breakout novel.
This is a Bible thing that people like in that stuff, right? Is the meek will inherit the earth, and it's good to suffer in this. So I wondered if there is a part of it that, maybe that explains why. But to me, if you're taking away, this guy does all this work, has given up everything in his life, his grandkids he's forsaking, his children he's forsaking, like a real piece of shit. So they're all just orphaned now because he's got to go read this book every day that she wrote, right? That was a nice touch. Read this to me and I'll come back.
Right.
I would have said, dear, you're not a medical doctor. That's not how this works, but neither here nor there. Watching her try to bring her back and them getting to that dance. Awesome. And I'm sure the counterpoint argument is showing how bad it gets deepens our respect for what Noah's putting himself through. That is not my take. I don't think it's what because he has to suffer too, right?
I'll be honest with you.
I think he is really hurting this lady more than he's ever helping her.
I have always, since I've gotten older, like high school, you're dumb and you don't pay attention to this stuff. Definitely since I've been married and mostly since I've had a kid, the level of selfishness required to do what Noah does bothers me a lot.
Okay,
Like-
so everyone's going to be yelling at us. Do you think the ending adds a look at what a trooper he is? He keeps coming back for her. I'm assuming that was the intention.
I think the intention is that it's. This is the problem with Nicholas Sparks in general. I think too is that romantic love. Like you and I've been married for a very long time. You've been with Amy for longer. I've been with Andrea for much longer than I've been married to her at this point. So like it's one of those things though where it's like romantic love, it's not just romantic love. Like there's also this like mutual respect and there's like a lot of other things that go into being and building a lasting relationship with someone. And I think the problem I take with Nicholas Sparks' stories is that it is purely based on this like idea of like fleeting romantic love at the top, and it's like this thing that just never goes away. And I'm like, that is bullshit. Like people,
in this
do
one,
not.
he has loved her for a long time and gone through these Job-like prostrations.
No, but see, they're all put upons. Like,
She
this
hates
is
me.
the
Let
problem.
me suffer more and more.
This is
and grow a beard
because
so I'm a man.
now we have to start at the beginning of this, like at the beginning of like in the 1940s.
Let's keep it at the ending before we jump. That was my fault.
Well, I can't really answer that question unless we talk because like I do not think that I think he puts himself through a lot of these trials and tribulations for really no reason. Like there are things that are illogical without question illogical in this story.
Right.
So, but like most of it comes down to his choices as a guy who claims to be in love with this woman rather than maybe just being like the world's greatest celebrated stalker, like that's pretty much it.
Now, I think this is our cynical natures because I don't think anyone would like equate writing letters with a stalker. I think, but if you went on a Tinder date and the next thing you know, this guy sent you a text message every day for a year,
not just
you
a
would
text
probably
message,
block his
like
number and let someone know.
A big like you have to scroll through your phone.
Yeah, one of those text
message.
messages where you're like, "Good God, there's more." You're just like, "I'm not even reading that." Yeah, so okay, maybe it's not just us, but I don't know. I don't know. This is kind of my base question with the movie is I don't know if the movie gets enough out of what we're doing if we add that terrifying ending. To me, that doesn't add a depth to Noah's journey, right? Look at how much he loves her. He keeps coming back for more pain. It feels like he is inflicting massive amounts of pain on her, right? Like 95% pain, 5%, oh, it's you. Thank you for reading my book. I think this is pretty fucked up. Like, that ending really fucking shocked me, if I'm being honest. And kind of took the piss out of the whole movie for me, really.
It's a little strange.
Yes.
It's interesting too. So like, because obviously I have the DVD, and when you're, I have the DVD. How else do you think
That's
we
the
didn't?
shield you use at the front of the fan club.
We weren't streaming in college. I had to have the DVD. So
that's right. I forget this movie's that old.
Yeah. So there are deleted scenes in this movie that explain a little more about like what it all was. But it's still...
he also keeps giving himself heart attacks from dealing with this.
Yes. So he has general heart problems like overall. But this obviously puts a
general wearing down. Yes.
A general wearing down. But there are other pieces of this, and it's funny too because like they take it out of the movie. There's one scene particular that I'm like, oh, that's actually a really good scene between him and Sam Shepard, where it's after they bought the house and he's like working on the house, and Sam Shepard literally addresses the problem in the movie like head on in this deleted scene where he goes, "I'm worried about you, son." And it's Sam Shepard, so he's just so fucking good.
Sam
like,
Shepard fucking rules. He's awesome in this movie.
He's so good in this movie. But he literally goes, I don't know if I would paint the house white. And he's like, really? He goes, what would you paint? He's like, black? Isn't that the color of morning? And it was like, dude, he puts the whole thing on Front Street right there. He's like, listen, man, if I could build a house and bring your mom back, I fucking would. She'd be right here hanging out with us now. But that's not how life works, man. Do you really think if you build this house, she's going to show up again? And he goes, yeah. And he's like, all right, you're crazy. I'm going down to the fire. I'm going to go drink beer. I cannot be around.
He had
anymore.
not seen the VHS of Beauty and the Beast, so he didn't know the all you got to have is a castle rule.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, you got a library? You know what? I am seeing something that wasn't there before. He got that library. Oh, you got a suit and a dress? There is something there that wasn't there before. He's running the Beauty and the Beast playbook as the worst Hail Mary in movie history. Right? Yes. I'm gonna fucking build this plantation, right? Which I think that's the thing Southern people love, and we don't think about like, that's kind of gross. This is also back then,
right?
But like my aunt and uncle, they live in a house that looks like a plantation, but is just in a neighborhood. Right. And I was like, I think that style of architecture can just go. Like, I think we got to be done with that.
There is this other thing we're not talking about. So this movie all takes place in the South. And it's like the 40s. There's something about this movie particularly. I'm like, why can't you guys address this properly? Because it is an uncomfortable situation, which is essentially Rachel McAdams' parents are Rachel McAdams' dad's like basically a cotton baron. And,
is he? See, I didn't know what he did. Oh, that's right. Yeah, he owns a cotton company. Yeah.
Like he's like a cotton baron in fucking Jim Crow South, and fucking like no one discusses it ever.
I mean, it's kind of like showing the horrifying ending of this tale, just showing the horrifying trauma that has created their wealth.
I think this is what's fascinating about The Notebook to me is that it's a romance movie for people who like. And I get it. Look, sometimes you don't want to have to apply any logic to some of these movies. If you apply like the one basic thread of logic to some of these scenarios, you're like, this movie doesn't happen at all. Like, not a chance.
This is a but see, the movie protects itself away in that because this is her
fairy tales
kind of diary where she rewrote this.
Yeah.
And there is no shortage of, 30 to 50s era American nostalgia. Where the worst thing was socias and greasers, right? And it's like we're forgetting this whole other massive group of people that do not have nostalgia for what was going on back then, but we just brushed past that, right? That's like a pretty common theme in entertainment, I would say.
So this is...
I'll tell you what the most racist thing in the movie was, if we're going to just get this out.
Going to see Lil Abner? Yes, agreed.
Maybe. I mean, that was part of, the thing that I was like, that's fucking racism. Like, you got to stop that. Is when the set, like, the performers, when he proposes to her, they're just up there doing their set. They got, like, a big band playing. He proposes to her in, like, this really horrendous proposal. Like, only guys that look like James Marsden can do something that stupid.
Right.
Mine was actually the worst proposal of all time, but
No,
he
mine
runs
was.
up on stage and just interrupts the band, right? They're in the middle of a ditty. He just takes the mic and he's like, hey, pipe down. I'm engaged. And it's like, what the fuck? You do not jump up on stage and interrupt a band with your personal news.
Right.
No one gives a fuck you're engaged. It's the 30s. That's what people did.
Right. And it's like, it's also, because
That was a pure, like, he does not respect this band.
Because I also, like, I love that actor. The guy who plays the band leader. He was the same guy from That Thing You Do. And I think he was in a show called My Brother and Me. Or was that him? No, that was another guy. Sorry. There was another movie that he was in, but either way, that's always the thing too, is I'm just like, wait, so you just cut this guy off while he's like literally leading a band? He's like, hey, hang on. I have a very important white announcement for everyone.
Me. Can you bring it down a notch?
I have a very important white announcement for everyone.
I have cheekbones and a wife. It's like, all right, fuck off, dude.
All right, get out of here.
Yeah.
It's
not great.
It's that shouting at the nicest lady cooking your food ever when she doesn't want to have to. She's like, oh, I'll help you pack, Miss Sally. I don't want to pack.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Do you remember Thursday?
The best is the look on her face after she says, I don't want to. She goes, okay.
Yeah. All right. Fuck me then.
Right.
I'm out.
Back to the kitchen. She goes, these white people are out of their minds.
These motherfuckers. Yeah. Dude, everything she does at the start of this movie, it's kind of like a Courtney Love light, right? Like, she is real fucking dramatic.
So it starts
for a woman who lives in a fucking mansion.
Yeah. So it starts in this. It starts with this hanging off the Ferris wheel thing where he clearly is friends with all these carnies.
That's a red flag behavior.
Right there. There. That's a problem.
I'm sure some people watch this and are like, how romantic is that? You're like, he was about to fucking splatter entrails on a fucking child waiting for the Ferris wheel because he wanted to get it in.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
And all because she said she did. Also, by the way, she said no. She was polite. And he said he was the aggressor. That's a problem. Yeah. That's a red flag behavior. Absolutely.
Well, this was the era of Tarzan-like masculinity, right? Like, we have to go club and conquer and treat people like shit.
And then they try to follow it up with
I'm just saying, if you fucking fall off a Ferris wheel and splatter blood on my child, I'm going to come piss on your grave.
Right.
Because you wanted to get a girlfriend. That's unacceptable.
See, it's interesting because, like, every time he does this, like, weird, psychotically obsessive behavior, they followed up with a scene that makes it look like, oh, see, it's kind of cute. Like, the next scene is him walking home.
This is the one that's, like, real bad, though. Like, that one is ridiculous.
Right, and that's the one at the top. So they followed up with this scene where he explains, like, oh, when I see something, I gotta have it. I love it. It's like, okay, stalker, got it. Thank you. Great.
Doth quote the rapist? Yeah. What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about?
I gotta have it. I'm like, yeah. We're,
you know who else says that? Children
5 feet away, please.
Yeah. Fucking kids under 10 and criminals talk like that, sir. Can you fucking bring it down a notch?
Right. Then they all go see little Abner, and then they sit in the middle of the street.
Did Ryan Gosling have contact lenses?
No, those are his blue. Those are his baby blues.
I feel like he had black eyes in this movie, like a devil.
I mean, there are a couple of moments where he's got Hannibal Lecter moments, yeah.
Well, because there is this weird, I thought he had black eye contacts, so he would look like James Gardner. But then at the end, we see their old pictures, and that's not them. This is who she's imagining they look like.
I like the idea that
they're the Walmart dime novel version.
There is a version of this where that scene where they're in the house when it's super dilapidated and they're getting naked, is he takes his shirt off and he's got the red dragon tattoo on his back. Do you see? Do you see? That's the movie I wanted.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. I think most of his romantic attempts are not horrendous, right? The laying in the street, that's kind of a normal thing, right? They both could have been splattered under tire. Again, spraying entrails on common bystanders.
Not great.
The moment is when she meets Sam Shepard, and he's reading poetry. He's reading Whitman. And then Sam Shepard is just charm on a stick. And then they have breakfast at night. That's when I'm like, this makes sense that she's hooked. Yeah, and that he's super fucking handsome.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you about Skylar insulting Ryan Gosling at LA Fitness?
Yes, you did, actually. But you need to tell that on this pod.
So we used to work out at LA Fitness on Cahuenga Pass, right, in the valley. And my brother was a big fucking huge bodybuilder guy, right? a little shorter than me, but just fucking jacked on jacked. And so he would make me go be his weightlifting partner, right? So, you know, I used to be all right back then. I was strong and big or whatever. Now I'm just a frail, broken old diabetic, but neither here nor there. But we're at the gym, right? And we're fucking, you know, doing bench press or something, I think. And we look over, and there's this guy in these shorts, and he has like a little hoodie on. I think he's trying to cover his face. And Skylar, like, sees him. He's doing, like, walking lunges, right? And he's holding, like, 10-pound dumbbells. Perfectly fine, right? Yeah. This was pre-Ryan Gosling getting a little pumped up, too. So my brother's like, watch this. He walks over to him at the gym. And when Ryan Gosling finishes a set, he picked up the 10-pound dumbbell and goes, "Ooh, you're so strong." And then he'd look at me and go, he'd like Dom DeLuise laugh and point at Ryan Gosling. But not like covering it, like to Ryan Gosling's face. And he goes, "Oh, this hurts my hand. You're so strong." And he's just such a fucking idiot. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And so Ryan Gosling like pulls the hood back. And he's just, you know,
the
all
most
right,
handsome
man.
guy ever.
And my brother kept making fun of him. And he left. And I go, "That's the fucking dude." I was like, that dude was just in Remember the Titans or something.
Right.
And Skylar just goes, "Yeah, right. He's a puss." And I was like, I don't know what that has to do with acting. And I was like, right on, man. So, yeah, essentially my brother shamed the fuck out of Ryan Gosling for trying to better himself and thought it was hilarious. So I do like to think that when Ryan Gosling got pumped up, he just saw my brother's big dumb mug in his face, and he's like, "Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy."
I'm gonna get ripped.
He literally just left in the middle of a workout because my brother is being such an unbearable cock. And those of you who have met my brother Skylar, yeah, imagine like an almost 6 foot tall Ronnie from Jersey Shore, but buffer.
Yeah.
That's who we're dealing with, right? So it was an interesting, and that's
Bless
the thing.
you,
He didn't
Skylar.
even know who he was. It was just a chance encounter
Right.
with Ryan Gosling.
So,
But neither here nor there.
I think when this movie really works is like what you're talking about, like scenes like that feel very naturalistic, because there's stuff that is.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I know you don't agree with this. I think Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams are very good together in this movie. They have a lot of great chemistry.
It made me appreciate Emma Stone a lot more because I think she finds this natural chemistry with people so fast. It felt to me like Rachel McAdams, it almost felt like she was doing remember when Jared Leto was the Joker and he just kept saying, "I'm the Joker," instead of being the Joker?
Sure.
That's how he kind of felt about her and her romantic partners in this. Like, she was so kind of like cartoonishly over the top in how she spoke and behaved.
I feel like
so it wasn't Gosling as much as her. Like,
I feel
there was,
like that
a
with
real
James Marsden. I think
those two, they bounced off each other like fucking, you know, Daffy Duck and Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, it was weird. I think that
you can't have two people like that in one relationship. I guess
think
if they're
Ryan
influencers.
Gosling and Rachel McAdams had a lot of naturalism to the way they spoke to each other on camera. Like there's like those scenes where they're together. Like obviously
when they were upset, I agree. When they were not
Yeah.
happy with each other, it felt
like Sam Shepard. Like you can't make
every scene with Sam Shepard perfect. Yeah.
You can't make a bad scene in a movie with Sam Shepard. Joan Allen too. Like Joan Allen is like the most like weird matriarchal character you could put in a movie, and she's fucking fantastic. Like, and I love Joan Allen in movies. She's fucking awesome in this. Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling have this really great rapport, this like naturalism, and I know they dated after this movie and all that shit. That doesn't really matter to me. Like, I think that they are just very in the scenes that aren't meant to be this like fleeting romance, like that scene when they're rowing back after they see the ducks or whatever, and it's raining. Like, there's nothing romantic about that at all. First off, they're wet. It's disgusting.
That's how it should be.
No.
Oh, no. Are you doing the Ben Shapiro? Ew, wet ass pussy, gross. My wife has never.
No. Remember? No.
Do you remember when Ben Shapiro did that?
Oh yeah, where he talks about how dry his wife's.
My
how dry
wife
his
said
wife's
that's
pussy
a problem
was.
if your vagina's wet, and I'm like, your wife is getting it somewhere else and lying
Yeah,
to you.
your wife is getting laid elsewhere, sir.
Your wife is getting it wet somewhere else, my friend. A vagina doctor knows.
No, I was
That has
no.
to be the
What
greatest cell phone
what
ever.
I'm saying is, it's raining out. Go inside. It's terrible. That's
Well, they were
bad.
stuck on the water.
On the wall.
And it was a wet T-shirt contest with Ryan Gosling.
But like scenes, I agree. Like scenes where they're fighting, like the one when they break up is really good, just because like that. I'm like, if you've ever been in a, other than her tendency to slap him in the face, which I have never experienced with my relationship. there's a lot of naturalism to those kinds of moments. And I think that the movie hinges on those two feeling very natural, so that everything else seems so absurd. So why would you hope that she would make any, because let's be very honest about this. In every other facet of reality, James Marsden gets the girl. Like, there is literally no, like, okay, so you came back to this town.
They were doing, like, riding those fucking dressage horses on their fucking fancy pants on the beach. I was like, this is over. Yeah. This is a wrap.
Come on. This guy's got it.
This isn't the classic, like, Mr. Darcy. It's like, James Marsden is equally charming and awesome. Like, he's a great guy.
Crazy cheekbones, equally charming and lovely, like, very friendly. Also, like, she's like, I'm going to go to this town.
Also a war hero. Like, I mean, he checks off all the same boxes except for that he wasn't first.
And then on top of everything else, she's like, I'm going to go to this town I used to vacation in and go antiquing. And he's like, all right, sure. Well, like, he's cool.
The movie is trying to do this, like, old-timey slut-shaming of her.
Yeah.
Which I don't think that's right. If you're getting married, you have the right to go out and be like, is this what I really want?
Right.
Turns out it wasn't for her. I don't think that's like a shaming thing, but the movie insists on putting us in that headspace.
Right.
So he goes, should I worry? And she goes, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
She drives right there and is getting it clapped within, like, the same day.
Yeah.
Like, there was no give at all. Like, no, maybe I'll think about this, right? Like, once the wetness hit from above, it hit from below. It was go time.
It was go time.
And so I was like, that's one of those, you drove there
knowing
you were going to fuck.
Yeah.
And then your fucking boyfriend calls you like 100 times. Well, no, I guess, did they fuck the second day?
They fucked the second day because she's like, can you come back tomorrow morning? I want to show you something. He's like, sure. And then he's like, I wrote you all those letters. She's like, oh, okay, cool. You're a stalker. Let's do this.
Right. So, yeah. So they meet the first day. Then the second day, he's like, hey, I'm going to take you out here. Wet, bang. They wake up on the floor and he's like, stop trying to bang me. I'm going to die. So you're like, oh, okay. So she's not getting that much banging elsewhere.
And then his other side piece shows up.
They have dinner together. Right? Mm-hmm. And I do love that line, though. She's great in the movie, the side piece, where she just goes,
oh, dude, she's amazing.
I'm actually happy for you. It gives me something to be excited for, right? She was a war widow.
Mm-hmm.
There's that previous scene where they had, like, the kind of sex where he looked like it was the Amityville Horror.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, no, I know how this ends, Axe Moitas. But, yeah, and then, they start clapping it around, and I'm like, the moment you stay overnight and start clapping it, you know that your fiance is gonna know that you're banging, right? Yeah. Like you want him to know, but you're not like just calling him and saying, "Hey, I actually like this."
It's very.
We get to the point where there's one of the most absurd scenes in the movie is not only that this man, his father sold his house, he got a loan so they could rebuild this plantation, but that he maintains it and keeps it on 40 cents a day.
Oh, dude! And then the guy who's like trying to the rich dude.
He grabs his gun because he doesn't want to sell it because he needs her
to come back.
But he makes an entire paint studio for her so she can paint tits out. And then she still is like, I don't know. And I was like, get the fuck out
So there's also this thread of there's the other thing too, and this is something I thought about. I've never really considered this one until this last time I watched, which was the Notebook is something that Allie writes. So like she sits down and writes this story of how they came back together, that kind of thing. Okay, cool. So that means all of this is her own words.
I mean, he might be taking some editor's benefits and she can't remember what she wrote.
So like for instance, like I thought about this, like in this scene particularly where James Garner's reading the portion where he's like, thought seriously, like got rip roaring drunk for 3 days. Thought serious about setting the house on fire. Like, is that editorial? Are you just making that shit up?
He's adding his perspective to her journal.
Well, that's my question.
Or maybe he told her and then she documented it later.
That's the part of this movie that I think is that's the part that's actually interesting to me about the Notebook itself and the reading of the Notebook, which is that because he's the reader, but she's the writer, so. Is he an unreliable narrator? Is he editorializing when things happen? Like,
I'm sure a little.
For instance, when James Marsden interrupts the band leader who's doing his job completely managing to, entertain all these people and ruins it to, announce his engagement. She's like, at that moment, she thought about Noah. It's like, did she? Or are you just making this shit up? Are you making this much more romantic than it really is?
You think she wasn't that in love with him and he's just adding all this fucking steppa?
Maybe actually this.
He's like, I gotta spice this up a bit. I've read this thing fucking 52 times.
Actually, here's something I just thought about. How many times do you think he's read The Notebook and she's gone, oh, James Marsden, it's you? And he's like, oh shit.
This happens
At
to
least
every
once.
story, right? The more you retell your
once.
personal stories, the more you refine them and harden the edges. So it's a better story. He might be putting some pepper on this.
At least
I saw
once.
James Marsden once at a Gelson. He's beautiful.
He's beautiful. He is a shockingly handsome person.
Like, it was like one of those, like, you double take, like, oh my God, right? A way that most men aren't beautiful. So, yeah.
Yeah. How many times do you think he's read the story and she thought it was James Marsden? I hope a lot.
So in The Notebook, she's like, God, I loved him so much that night. And he's like, fuck that. Scratches it out. All I could think about was Noah's hog. No, that's crude. Noah. Right? It's like, come on. Come on.
Little bit of editorializing there, Noah. I bet
just think about that awkward scene where we both look from each other's toes to our heads, past the tits and vaginas and dicks, and I was happy that day. It's like, I don't remember thinking that. I'm back, and you lied. It's like, no.
Yeah, do you think
So not only does she have the terror of not knowing who this pushy man is, but also knowing she's being rewritten by a hack.
Even
Every writer's worst nightmare.
that's what's going on. So there is one character in this movie that I want to point out that is like the MVP of the whole thing is Vincent Chase's buddy E making an appearance.
I got yelled at over this, by the way. I know we laughed about it, but my wife goes, "No,
There's a part in this movie. So I've watched a lot of Band of Brothers, and I'm when you're older, you have to pick a war that you want to be a history buff about, and I think mine's going to end up. I think I'm going to be a World War II dad. Like my dad's a World War II dad. I
have just been watching a lot of like documentaries on Hitler and North Korea.
Yeah.
So I think I'm hitting that phase of dad.
Yeah.
Too.
So I think that's so. I've always thought this was kind of weird, and I've never had anyone to properly discuss it with until Griffey pointed it out and made me really happy. Is when they're obviously World War II begins, the U.S. involvement in World War II starts, and Noah and his friend, I can't remember the name of the movie, is Finn.
Yeah, they leave Atlanta to go recruit.
Noah and Finn leave Atlanta. They enlist to go fight the war. So they're in the middle of snowy Europe somewhere, and the planes come in and start blowing everyone to hell. The next shot is him going, Finn, where are you? And he looks down, and Finn is Finn's.
I shouldn't laugh so much. Oh
Finn.
shit!
So there's no blood or anything anywhere. Like there's no viscera, no gore, like we've seen in other World War II things. All it is Finn is buried under some snow, but his little feet are sticking out. Like
it looks like a Spirit Halloween like zombie you put in the. I don't know why, but so
I'm
he gets
probably
blown
gonna-
up. And his feet are twisted like when Jim Carrey falls off the catwalk in Dumb and Dumber. And I started dying laughing because they just cut to E like drooling. He doesn't say anything. It's
just
supposed to be this powerful, like, how sad is that moment?
It is.
I couldn't control myself.
wasted.
I just started dying. I was cackling.
And
And my wife was just going, no, that's not funny. No. And I just went, his little feet. And I just couldn't stop laughing. So she was really mad at me over my takes on The Notebook.
I'm going to have to find a screenshot of the moment because it is like one of the funniest things
It's not even
I've
the
ever
face.
seen in a
It's
movie.
the little feet. You got to see the little feet.
It's one of those decisions like, why would you do that? But that's like probably like there's just listen, for me, there's a lot of great performances in this movie that do a lot of work for a movie that I don't think necessarily I've never read the book. But for a story that I think is pretty problematic when you apply any logic to it. Like The Notebook is complicated.
He's just selfish as hell at the end, man. It's brutal at the end. The rest of it I can vibe with. Because again, you get like Sam Shepard, you get the mom. The mom is a great character in this movie, where she just comes and stalks this like day laborer, and she's like, "Look, that's the guy I used to bang that I wanted to be with, and then I chose your rich paw." Because it's like, whose side are you on? You're like countering your own argument right now. You came to yell at her for being a tramp, and now you're like, "Hey, go bang these working guys."
Yeah.
Right? Even though I chose your father, I loved him, right? Because she's brutal, right? She has the line when they're screaming, Noah and her trying to clap it at the fucking plantation, and they come back, the police were out. Yeah. And she's just like, I love him, I'll never leave him. And she goes, what's wrong with him? And they just go, she's just like, he's trash. He's trash.
Trash. And he's
and
in
Noah
the house.
Hears it, it's brutal, right? And then the dad, who you think's like the softie, he goes, he ain't it for you. He ain't good enough for you. Yeah, he ain't enough for you.
Let me twirl my mustache some.
That part was brutal, right? So I think the mom, like some of these backbone characters keep you really engaged throughout. But yeah, Joan Collins, is that it? She was awesome.
No, Joan Allen.
Joan Allen, that's what I mean. Joan Allen. She was really fucking good. So like I really enjoyed her, running through the flick.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the romances are, I can see how people get into that kind of like high romantic retellings. Again, I think it's just like weird though. Like it's high romance, but every scene of it, there's just like a weird aggressiveness to a lot of it. And so you're like, all right, but I can kind of get behind that, right? The letters and the crying and the kissing in the rain, like the Swan Lake, like that's all become iconic enough, right?
I
can get in on that.
Yeah.
It's the fucking ending. I cannot suffer this ending.
And
I don't think it adds to like, look at how much Noah really loves her.
No, and I think
it's how much Noah cannot not have her again.
It is a strange thing, and I've always felt it as just a tag. Like I think that's the biggest problem with the movie is that it doesn't end with them just like hugging. Like,
what if they just danced and he tucked her in and he's like, "I'll be here tomorrow to read to you."
Here's the thing. We all know how that ends. Like, we don't need to see the realism of this moment. Like, we've been whisked away on this, like, otherwise very romantic film that is, you don't notice until after you're out of the theater that he's a stalker. But, like, what it is I don't need the realism of, like, we live our lives around realism of dementia and Alzheimer's every day of our lives. I don't need to be reminded of it.
Would you like the ending of The Green Mile if Tom Hanks as a super elderly man just got fucking mugged and stabbed?
Yeah,
it's like,
like,
no,
is that
I don't
a thing
want
you
that.
want to see? Like,
Can I just have the like old people having a happy moment, right? And I'm one of those. I don't think movies need happy endings. I think this one aggressively attacks the rest of the movie.
I think that
it tries to unravel the movie.
I think what's annoying is this movie deserves a happy ending because, like, we've sat through it. There's no reason not to give it a happy ending, and instead we give it this really somber, terrifying ending of like, oh my god, like.
What if Peter Falk looks up from the last chapter of The Princess Bride? He's like, oh my god, how was that? And Fred Savage is just dead. Like whatever he had, he died. And Peter Falk didn't realize because he was reading. Right. That doesn't make that a better movie. What the fuck are you doing?
And like his mom rushes in. He's like, you didn't notice he had 110 fever? His brain's melting out of his ears.
He's just covered in vomit. He's like, ah. It looks like Regan from The Exorcist. He's dead. And you're like, well, I'm not watching that movie again. That was fine, wrong. But no, I don't understand what it adds. And it kind of reeks of like Jesus audience to me.
Well, I think that's fair. I mean, again,
that, like
this is
suffering, the, one and only person. I'll give everything of myself for someone else. Again, things that not everyone like follows, but that's kind of the beliefs.
Well, this is Nicholas Sparks, and again, I don't know enough about his writing. Like, I know that.
Same.
I mean, this is someone who did. Let's see. I know he's done Dear John.
I went on a Valentine's Day date with Amy to see Dear John with Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
That movie is abysmal. Like, hard to watch. So this movie, I'm pleasantly pleased that it's much better than that.
He wrote Dear John. The other famous one that I know, like, everybody loves is A Walk to Remember is the other one that's like...
Yeah. Amy loves Nicholas Sparks and Jodi Picoult, like, all those kind of authors.
Right. Okay.
So this has been, around. I've never seen A Walk to Remember. Like, I don't watch this kind of movie very often.
This isn't your kind of movie, but this is why I was excited to watch this movie this month. Like, when we picked this theme, I was like, we got to watch The Notebook because this movie deserves... It's okay because I like this movie. It's fun to watch. and we talk about this a lot on the show. It's okay to go after the ones you like because movies require some examination. It's okay to like think about it. And if you apply a shred of logic to this movie, it's a red flag story, 1000%. And that's fine. It's fun.
Honestly, I don't even think I had to apply logic. I think they fucking shoved my no in it like I was a puppy that shit on the carpet.
Right, but they did a really good. But see, this is like the Nick Cassavetes thing, and he like really good in this movie, particularly of just like kind of sweeping it under the rug, so that you don't pay attention to it until you like walk out of the theater and actually think about the movie. Because by the end of the movie, like. And I don't know, you've seen Just
We're
Friends,
gonna fight.
right?
It's gonna be hard. I'm gonna tell you a pain in the ass 90% of the time. Like
Right.
that's how it's gonna go.
Because like, you've seen Just Friends, right?
Ryan Reynolds loses all the weight and he's a music exec. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a scene in this movie where basically he's trying to date Jamie Palomino, which is Amy Smart's character, and they all go to see The Notebook, and it's like him and her, and then Chris Klein's character tags along, and then Ryan Reynolds' mother's character comes as well, which is it's a great scene in the movie because like he ends up having to hold his mom's hand during The Notebook during like that final scene when she realizes, which is not great, but then, and this is like the thing about
that movie was like a big cultural touchstone for a few minutes.
What?
The Notebook.
Notebook? Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's like, and Chris Klein's character says like, listen, man, I know it maybe sounds a little weird, maybe a little femme, but there's just something so simplistic about Nicholas Sparks' writing. I'm like, there it is.
A little femme.
Simplistic. It's simplistic.
Early 2000s humor.
It's simplistic is that there's no applied logic until you apply.
There's no introspection.
Right.
Yeah.
It required like the introspection that becomes. What's that?
I feel like that's a very casual, like, hard dunk on Nicholas Sparks.
It is. I'm not saying it's like, but I'm not saying that it's the dunk. What I'm saying is it's not. And again, I'm not a fucking writer of romance novels, but
I'm sure the book probably benefits from a little more like, what the fuck are they thinking?
Sure. I mean, again, this is a 2-hour movie, so like there's probably some other stuff that got left on the cutting room floor from the book. I think this movie I think what people find about this movie that's romantic is weird to me, and I'm not sure I necessarily agree with it.
There is a line between creep and like hunk.
Yeah.
Where it's like, how hard do you want people
it's
to
crossed
go
pretty
to win
often
you
in
back?
this film.
Yeah, like see, I'm kind of like James Marsden is how I always think about it, right? Like, if I come home and find you in bed with another man, I'm just gonna go, cool, let's call the lawyer, hack it up,
yeah,
have a good life, right? Like James Marsden's just like, I'm not gonna try to convince my fiance she needs to be with me, and I was like, yes, fucking right on. This movie
when
gets
she
into
says
that,
you don't
like,
have
him
to,
on
I
the
know
Ferris wheel, right? Him with the letters. This is the thing. He wrote a lot of letters. Hey, take a fucking 4-day week and drive up to New York. Go fucking see her.
Why don't you go find her?
You fucking, yeah. Oh, I care so much. I'm going to write a note for 10 minutes a day. Go fucking see her.
Get on a train, man. Come on.
Yeah. Come on. If you can afford that plantation, you can afford a train ticket. Come on. Neither here nor there.
Either way, it's one of those, look.
This is the thing. I knew it as this big, like I said, cultural touchstone for a minute. Everyone was joking about The Notebook, referencing The Notebook. It became this catch-all for like goofy romance tales for a while. So I thought this was going to be this, high, grandiose, look at what they're doing for love, fighting through the war and depression, whatever. I appreciate the strangeness of this movie.
Me too. Yes.
Like, this is a weird fucking version of that story. And I do appreciate that. Just let her be. Let her go off to the elven lands beyond Middle Earth, right? Yeah. It's not cool if Samwise just chokes Frodo and doesn't let him move on. Like, that's a bad end to that.
Let her, if you really love her, let her live her best life possible with this super handsome rich guy. Like, James Marsden, also, like, it's also
not even that. Like, you can fight him when you're young. When she's old and dying of Alzheimer's, let her fucking be.
I think the problem, this is where, like, for me, the logic problem is James Marsden's character is a decent guy. So you're just choosing, like, you're just choosing a guy who clearly has emotional issues over the other guy who,
sounds romantic, and then you see the carnage,
and you're like,
this doesn't add up to me.
not sure this is going to work.
This does not add up to me, right? If you got to kill 3 kittens to get a smooch, that's bad math. That's bad math.
I'm not sure I could put it any finer than that.
Well, I had a lot of time to think.
Well, I've had a lot of time to stroke my mustache and twist it up so I look like the Monopoly guy.
That fucking guy. I couldn't tell if he was cool or not. Anywho.
He was telling racist jokes at the kitchen table.
Oh, that's right. He's out. And he's not good enough for you, huh? Yeah, fuck that guy. Fuck all these parents except for Sam Shepard. Leave your wife alone, you fucking monster. That's it for The Notebook. That's it for Amour. We've had enough of that shit. Yuck. Gross.
Let's get on.
We're like Fred Savage. Is this a kissing book? Gross. It's actually a really fun month of movies. I've enjoyed this quite a lot.
I've enjoyed this.
Over on Patreon, we had The Mist and City of Lost Children. It's been a great month on Patreon. Commentary still to come. Awesome stuff. Well, no, you'll have that by now. Sorry, we record in the distant past. So you're all time travelers by the time you hear this. Next month, we are excited to announce on the main feed, we'll be covering our 2 favorite Oscar movies that we haven't already covered since we talked about the menu in January. Mm-hmm. The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once. We're going to talk about those to start the month as a kickoff to Oscar month. Yep. And then we are finishing out the main Alien franchise, right? We're doing Alien, Aliens, Alien 3.
Yep.
We've already done Resurrection, and then that's it. We'll talk about Prometheus and those someday down the road. But we had a 3-week window, and we're doing Aliens.
Yeah.
And then we're very excited to announce in April, we have our Damn Dirty April month with our guest, Jay Rollins, who you will know from our show before, hopefully a great comic book artist, great guy. He will be joining us to discuss the total sum of Planet of the Apes, right? So the original franchise, Mocky Mock, and the new trilogy. Version. We are doing the entire run, all 9 movies for the month of April. So if you would be so kind, if you don't want to hear Apes that month, you're still going to get your Patreon exclusives because we are like that. We work hard over here. So go to patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod for more awesome stuff. And it truly is the best way to help support Alex and I and the show. Help us grow this thing. We want to use those resources to find ways to grow this show. So your commitment to helping us helps us do that, and we appreciate it greatly. The new people we've seen come in, thank you. It means a lot to us. We appreciate you. The YouTube Film Alchemist, the email filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on the socials. Leave those ratings and reviews, and tell a friend about the show, God damn it. Find a friend who's losing their mind and read a notebook just full of quotes from our show to them. Please, God, do that. Help us grow the show. Anywho, we'll be seeing you guys next month for the Banshees.
I'll be seeing you in all the familiar places. Oh, sorry, is that weird now? Yeah, it's recontextualized. You're welcome.
Gross. Bye.
Bye.